Second. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We are in week 6 of Inmates to Entrepreneurs 8-week course. So that means tonight is actually our last night of new content. Next week, week 7, will be a recap class. So we're going to talk about basically everything we've discussed since week 1. We'll be recapping that next week. And then the following week, which is November 9th, I want to say, is our graduation ceremony. Normally, I don't bring up graduation quite this early. Normally, I wait till about week 7 to start talking to all of you about it. But I did want to get ahead of it. So I, in advance, want to both apologize and thank you all for being patient with me. Next week after class, I will be out of the office Thursday, Friday, and then the following Monday. So I actually won't be back in office next week until the day before graduation. So I wanted to get a jump start on getting you all the information you need. Normally, I would not do this. We have class, we have graduation. I wouldn't have things going on. I'm actually getting married next weekend and my to-do list is 1.5 miles long. So please be patient with me. That said, I'm going to send you all tonight the end of course survey. If you remember when you registered for the class, it's like a maybe 5-minute long registration form. We're going to ask you to complete that again. It just helps us track, did you start a business, or if you already had a business, has it grown? Just giving us an idea of kind of where everyone is after the class. Like I said, I will send that in my recap to all of you tomorrow. It should take less than 5 minutes. Once you complete once you complete the survey, you give me about 2 business days. Within 2 business days, I will have your certificate emailed to you. If you send it to me next Thursday, I will not get to it until the following Tuesday. So I'm giving you like a week heads up. You can go ahead and get started on that. I will highlight it, bold it, make it obvious in my email recap tomorrow that that is the survey. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And then next week, I'll give you more information about graduation. So we'll talk about who our keynote will be. We'll talk about all those good things. And then normally we also ask if any graduates want to speak. So typically we have 2, 3, 4 program graduates who will speak for about 2 or 3 minutes. Usually people introduce themselves by doing their elevator pitch. They'll tell us about their business, what they got from the class, things like that. I like to take volunteers first. So if anybody's interested in speaking at graduation, you can message me on here, you can email me, whatever you want to do, just let me know. If I don't hear from anyone, or if I only hear from 1 or 2 people, I'll start reaching out probably Friday. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and I can get you that information ahead of time. Other than that, we have both Josh Nowak and Nadav Mer back with us this evening. You have all met them several times now. We're going to be talking about customer service and human resources. As always, please utilize the chat, ask questions. Like I said, this is the last night of new content. So definitely take advantage of our instructors while they're here. Nadav and Josh, I'm making you both co-hosts now. Whenever you're ready for, just let me know and I'll pull it up.
Hello, everybody. And Allie, let me be the first to verbally congratulate you. It's a very big week. And yeah, I'm sure everybody in the class feels the same way looking at the chat. So very excited for you. I hope it's going to be a great time. And, we will all be there vicariously behind you. And, not just today, but for your future. And it's a beautiful thing. And weddings are so hopeful, right? When you hear about weddings, just like there is hope for the world. There are beautiful people doing beautiful things. It's great. So I love that hope. So celebrate those good vibes. So again, I'm Nadav Mer. I've talked to you guys about my coffee business experience. You guys know I'm lecturing at Texas A&M University, teaching the same stuff. I will tell you guys also that I used to have a business selling American Power Conversion battery backup systems. That was like my first full-time business, and I ran that business for years. So I sold a lot of IT equipment, and that's another kind of interesting business that I did, and only outsourced all my sales. I didn't hold any inventory. ship stuff all over the country. There's lots of interesting models for business where you don't have to own any inventory. You can sell stuff to people and have, ship it directly to them. So that's a fun tidbit. I know Josh was going to give us another fun tidbit we've never heard about him telling us before. What do you got for us up your sleeve, Josh?
I have no sleeves. I got short sleeves today. You haven't seen my my latest edition to the chat box there. Anyway, I am Josh Nowak. I am co-founder of Breaking Free Apparel. We are a shirt printing business based here in Southern California. But more than making cool shirts, we also are a second chances employer. You can find us at Breaking Free BFI. So this is a great week because we're talking about customer service, and Nadav and I tend to have slightly different perspectives based upon the unique nature of our business and their business backgrounds. Mine being more B2B, and Nadav being more the main street, literally a main street business where you walk in and say hello. So every week we kind of have this kind of, every time we teach sports together, we have this kind of different flavor as far as how you do service and what does it mean to provide great service. Yeah, so let me see if I can get some better sounds here. Am I good? Am I any better?
Much better.
Okay, cool. So let's hear some really, really cool elevator pitches because I wasn't here last week. I was having a trade show event last week where I might have had some incredible fun, yet made some incredible connections. So, I mean, both of those things happen, which is awesome. And then to Ali, I am smug that I did not get an invitation to your wedding. And Ali, you might be right. I did actually go to the trade show for part of the day. I might not have stayed the entire time. Okay. Single, ready to mingle in Vegas. What are you gonna do? Anyway, I digress.
It was the ex-accountants show in Vegas, right? The former accountants only?
I gotta say, when you're at an apparel trade show, it's actually really cool. It certainly beats the CPA trade shows. Anyway, let's go hear some really cool pitches because you don't want to hear me, you don't want to hear a middle-aged fat guy talk about his escapades in Vegas. Tandra, let's hear from you first.
We're still not getting audio from you, Tandra. I can't hear you at least. Are you guys getting any audio? Yeah, Tandra, we're not getting any audio from you. I'm sorry to say. I don't know if it's a setting maybe in your microphone or something else. We are sad. We want to hear you and we are not hearing you. Any advice, Ali or Josh? What should we ask Tandra to do?
Why don't we have Tandra put your stuff into the chat window just so that we can at least see it? And then let's move on to somebody else. And then hopefully let's come back to Tandra and see if we can't figure that out.
Awesome. Thanks for the patience with us, and we'll be patient with you, Tandra. This is the life. This is technology. These are the problems. So, great. So, anybody else? Maybe we can test and make sure our mics are coming in. Oh, Quincy.
Let's go.
We hear you, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. How you guys doing?
Fabulous. Glad to have you on. Let's hear it.
All right, let's go. Okay. My name is Quincy Dawkins. I started Stand in 2020 with a couple of reformed fathers just like me. Any father that's out there living through those past mistakes and overcoming streets, any father that's living through past mistakes and overcoming the streets of Compton or any street. I chose to leave the street life alone and the gang life alone by putting in positive work after my incarceration. I've been a victim to injustice, and I can't allow the youth to get misguided the way that I did. I chose to, I can't choose misguide the way that I did. The way that the world see mistakes is wrong, and they don't. The way that the world see mistakes is wrong, and they don't talk about it when it's labeled gang related. I stand on making a better way to become redeemable to today, and I chose the way to make where I stand on creating a better way to become redeemable in today's society while changing the narrative and creating our own voices. We are the ambassador of reform felons, reform fathers, and reform justice. Stand together, never divide. Reach them, teach them, and be the hero.
Josh, where do you want to go first? Oh, you're eating. Caught you mid-bite.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just starting lunch. It's been one of those days. Okay, Quincy, I
Yes.
love the energy. I love your thoughtfulness. You are way more articulate than you were 2 weeks ago about this. That said, we got to put this on a diet. What you shared was probably about a minute and a half about content.
Yeah.
So I love though that you've really put some thought about how you're describing your journey. And that's so Nadav, can you just role play with me for a second?
Absolutely, anytime.
Can you give me your elevator pitch? Just your standard, what you used to do.
Sure. And I'll try to act like I'm meeting you in an elevator too. You know, that's the other part of it for you guys to roll by. Be like, hey, what's up, man? I love your t-shirt. You know, what's your name?
No. Give me your pitch from the coffee shop.
Sure. All right. So I'm Nadav Mayer. I'm the owner and founder of Morning Bell Coffee Roasters in Ames, Iowa. On Main Street, we're a specialty coffee retailer and roastery. We're really known for our cold brew. And you can check us out on socials at Morning Bell Coffee.
Perfect. That's great, Nadav. Tell me how you got involved into that business.
So it was really serendipitous. It was a crazy journey. Let me take about 25 minutes of your time and tell you all about it.
Okay. So why I just asked Nadav there and how I posed that, Quincy, is that you give the pitch and it's like a 20-second invitation to start talking about what it is that you do. And then oftentimes if I'm on a personal level, I'll then come back and say, well, how the F did you get here? What makes you kind of into that? And then the way you expanded on it was so beautiful. And it's so important that you're able to articulate it that way. But your articulation is more of it's an answer to that second question, the follow-up after you give that elevator pitch. And that guy basically drags you off the elevator to ask you that follow-up question. So like if you were to ask me, well, how'd you get involved in the apparel space? Well, or why second chances? Well, I'm a convicted felon and here's why. And I'm about to, like you and I, in terms of our reason for existing isn't really that far off, Quincy. In fact, I am on the border. I'm in Gardena right now, which is not too far from Compton, as you know.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I might be in the bougie, like I'm kind of on the border between Torrance and Gardena at the moment. But like, I absolutely really resonate with your story, but we just need to kind of break your pitch. What I'm going to suggest that you do is I'm going to put my chat window in the chat window, I want to, please send me what you wrote. So I knew you were reading out from screen. Send me what you wrote. And I want to just respond back to your email. Basically, I want to break it up into two parts. One is here's the 20-second section. And then to really kind of craft down like the why. It's like, when I started off with my pitch just a few minutes ago, I was talking about, okay, I'm Josh, I'm from Breaking Free, blah, blah, blah. And then, well, how'd you get into that? Or what type of apparel do you sell? Or why do you, I've got these almost kind of canned responses because I've answered it so many times as far as why do I do X? How do we engage with you? Well, you engage with me by, hey, I'm passionate about this business because of the injustices I saw, the gross racial injustice I saw behind the wall, that it's so hard that so many people don't have a first chance, never mind a second. Like that kind of verbiage, that's rehearsed just the same. So what we're trying to do here is get you your 20 seconds so that you get that invitation to share more.
Yeah.
Like
it's the teaser.
That's right, Nadav. Like the elevator pitch is the quintessential cheeser that says, like if we were on Tinder, it'd be your profile statement. And so what we're trying to do is how do we get that that expansion to get that person to swipe right on our pitch so that we can talk a little bit more about our business. So, hey, I offer great apparel. It's seasonal. You know, this time of year we're talking about fall colors. I want somebody to say, hey, tell me more. And then I've got that based upon how that question shows up. Then I'll talk about either racial injustice, I'll talk about the social action piece of it, or I'll actually talk about apparel because they're not interested about second chances. They just want to actually talk apparel. Go figure that someone actually just wants to talk apparel with me. That's that. Okay. I
Yeah.
talked a little bit too much about it. Quincy, does that make sense to you?
Makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I know. What
The only
And
thing
I
would say-
love the thought process that you put behind this. Like what you said is gold. Let's just package it in that 20-second soundbite and a 40-second soundbite. And I just want to help you do that offline.
okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I agree with everything you said, Josh. The other part, Quincy, this is the start of like your introductory 1-minute YouTube video or 2-minute YouTube video or reel or something, right? So like that content has a place. You giving that longer explanation has a place. It's just not in the elevator pitch. The
Okay.
elevator pitch is that 20-second teaser, you know, who am I? What am I doing? Why is it special? Where do you find me? Boom. You know, it should be extremely simple.
I got you. Thank you.
Great, Quincy. Thanks for sharing, man. Solid. All right.
Solid,
who else?
solid.
Yeah, who else are we going to hear from?
My name is
Yeah.
Ali Thomas, and I'm getting married next week.
I don't know
I
if
can't
Tom-
believe that's finally time.
Oh, we got
Ali's-
Lisa. We
All right,
got
let's hear from
Lisa.
Lisa.
All right.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Do awesome, Lisa.
Awesome. Okay, because I'm having trouble with my my ear pods and they're not working right. So I didn't know if the mic was still working. Okay, here we go. Hi there. My name is Lisa Carroll, and I'm the graphic designer and owner of Kitten Cuts. We're based in Arkansas, and we provide digital planners, digital stickers, physical stickers, digital cut files for crafters, and so much more. We live to help people keep their lives in order and do it with style. You can find us at etsy.com/kitten cuts or on Pinterest at Kitten Cuts and Twitter at @kitten_cuts and coming soon www.kittencuts.com. The end.
Wow. You have a lot that you've done to get it to that point, Lisa. This is great. I
Oh,
really
great.
loved to hear the pitch. It was succinct. You know, there were a lot of really amazing elements about it. I know what you're doing. I know where you're at. The stuff that I would poke you on to make it clearer is that part about like we offer the stickers, digital, like all those different products. Tighten that up somehow into a category of products that you can talk
Okay.
about. You know, and whether it's like, you know, digital and in person. You know, I'm not even that clear hearing it, right? Like what you're actually offering. So tighten
Yeah.
that up somehow to make that really clear to us in terms of what
Okay.
that offer is. And then on your socials, don't even go there. Don't even talk about like find us, you know, this different Twitter handle is different than this. Keep it very generic, just with your name maybe in one place. Like go to Etsy,
Okay.
search this, boom. And maybe the other thing, and I think you did this somewhat, that you have an opportunity to do is to talk about how you're different and special, right? So like, what is different? What is the special sauce that Lisa is bringing to this party? That's what I want to know.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great job, though. It sounded great.
Wonderful.
Josh, what do you got to add for us here?
So I've got two things when you say that you're graphic design, I think you want to say, I think Nadav's right. Just bring it up a level of,
Okay.
we do small format printing, maybe. We do vinyl decals. We do promotional items. And we also can do your graphic design work as well. And you may want to say specifically, we have in-house graphic artists available for you. Just because that is something to say, like part of the elevator pitches, we're trying to hone in just one, but depending upon your needs, you can start changing it around. Like, hi, this is Lisa, and we're your graphic artist graphic designer partners. We'll do your custom logos, and you can go down just the digital side.
Mhm.
Another element, this is Lisa from Graphic, and we do promotional items.
Mhm.
Because there's so many different places you can go with that. Large format, small prep format, branding identities, all that sort of stuff. So start working it. Don't try and be all things to everyone at the same time. You can have multiple pitches for just substitute based upon who your audience is and who you
Right.
think the best buyer would be. This is, we've got our own graphics here. You can talk to us about graphic design. You can talk about slogan and branding. And each week you could talk about something different. And
Okay.
and that's cool. It's cool that you don't have to have one singular pitch. Behind that is, if you can, to take it one step further, I love that you've gone out and you've put together all these social handles. Is it possible for you to find a unifying one that's similar across the platforms? So for example, Breaking Free BFI was one that I could get through on YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. So when I say you can find me on socials at Breaking Free BFI, no matter which one you pick, you're going to find me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I don't know why my Twitter had that underscore in it.
well, you can go back and you can change them, but find one that you can use that uniforms. Mind you, if you are in the branding space, if you are in the graphic art space, the unfortunate thing is that you are held to a higher standard.
Yes.
The plumber's leaky toilet is never really found. If you've got, people will look to you to say, wow, you've got really cool marketing materials. And if you have your stuff that's haphazard, that's a pretty big tell. Like, a really easy way for me personally to shop is that when I'm talking to a graphic artist, if your shit looks sloppy,
Yeah.
I'm moving right on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, the plumber's leaky toilet, that's an adage. When you're a marketing firm and you're not showcasing your own brand well, and but what I mean by marketing, if you're in anything touching graphic arts
Right.
and your stuff isn't great, so I would challenge you to, when you do release your website, make sure it's really edgy and that it's really well done. Not to say that it should hold you back. And this is for everybody on the line. There is never a reason for you to hold back from starting your business. Go with gusto. But as a conscious awareness, know very well that people are holding you to a higher standard overall, and that you constantly, like, I might have to revisit my website every 2 years. You're going to have to revisit it every year. If you're posting on Instagram, if I post once a month, probably all right. You need to be posting 3 times a week, because if you're in that space, you're going to get a lot more traction of saying, wow, she really knows what she's doing. And then using your graphic arts business, whether or not you personally do this or not, you can leverage that business into social media marketing. You can leverage it into branding and identity. All these kind of offshoots as businesses that you can start subcontracting to other smarter people. So that ultimately you pick off the business that you really like. Let's just say you really like the craft side of it, and everything else gets outsourced. So that you
Right.
become the quarterback of all these other graphics kind of things. Like, someone talks to me about promotional items, I'll order you your step and repeat. I don't do them. I only do apparel.
Mhm.
So I'll do bras, I'll do underwear, I'll do shirts, I'll do pants. But if you've got a tablecloth, I'm sending that out.
Mhm.
But I'll take your money. I will gladly
Yeah.
take your money. If you don't have a logo, hey, no problem. I will gladly take your money.
That's another
Um,
good rule of business. When someone tries to give you money, accept it.
Always take it.
Most of the time. Most of the time.
Find a way to say yes. No, and Josh, your point was really good, and I would frame it another way too, right? There's different types of businesses. You can get away, if you're a cleaning company, your marketing does not have to look that amazing, right? It can be extremely basic, because nobody expects that your cleaning company is going to be that on it. Same if you have a masonry company, right? Or if you're painting houses. But if you're in design, right? If your business is selling this stuff, that raises the bar like crazy. Their expectations when they look at you, that judgment is going to be really harsh. Because what you're saying when you say, I have this kind of company, you're saying, I'm a self-diagnosed expert in this field, right? You are anointing yourself as a source of not only information, but that you are a source of judgment of that. It's very loaded. So I think that's
The
a
good
great
thing,
point.
good thing I've been doing this for over 30 years. So
It's great, Lisa. It's great.
yes.
So yeah, I think you did a really nice job. It was very succinct and you can make those points tighter. But thanks so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. Really, really
Wonderful.
great.
Thank you so much.
It's a joy. All right. I saw Tandra put her pitch in the chat. Tandra, can you talk? Do we hear you again? You want to give it another whirl? We're still getting nothing. It's so sad. All right, give us, I see in the chat that you have a good description. It's kind of the first part of an elevator pitch. But I'm getting a little bit about why you're different, which is awesome. You can also have another differentiation point. You know, we're the ones with the wild trucks. We have this link for these types of clothes, something extra special that makes you really memorable. That when people hear about you one time, it gets stuck in the back of their heads. And then I want to hear where you're at. Do you have a physical store? Is it only online? And then how we find you. That's it. So yeah, I'm missing that second part. So next time when the sound works, you can either, you know, if not, we'll type that in and that's awesome. Who else wants to, oh, Josh's going to bring us something. Sorry, not steamrolling you. Not yet.
So-
not
I'm struggling with the word frugal for a second. Like I love the alliteration. The challenge I have with frugal is who's the person that clicks on that ad? And are you able to maybe it's Fabulous Finds Fashions or Fabulous Fashion Finds, something to say that you're describing, because frugal to me, like, so I used to be a CPA, also known as the cheapest person alive. And attracting that person as a client can be a double-edged sword. And I understand the habit for most of us is to, in order to undercut the competition, is to discount our price. There is significant peril in doing that. So my concern here about the alliteration with, yeah, I mean, Tom's just kind of right here about being fabulous without breaking the bank. So you want to kind of either put that right in there or Fabulous Fashion Finds, because a find usually is, wow, I found this at, you know, I found this amazing item for something that was really inexpensive. Yeah. I get what you're going for here. I don't know the right answer. And I think that I was right that, yeah, we do need to understand geographic area, especially if you're going to do personal style work and home wardrobe organization. There's a lot that's available right here in the wardrobe organizational part. And you can have a lot of fun with your pitch on that. If you haven't worn it in a year, you're not wearing it again, honey. I'm sorry. And that goes into your TikTok reel, your short videos that you're describing a client's closet. And you're like, okay, this went out in the 70s. The 70s called and they want their tie back. Oh, the bell bonds, they're back now. Keep them in. Like you can have so much fashion fun on the social media elements here, but I do need to know where you are geographically. So great
good
stuff,
point.
Tandra.
Good point, Josh. I'm picking the frugal thing out. Yeah, someone's paying attention. This is great. Yeah, and I love the option. The way you make me think, Josh, you can have those before and after videos. Really powerful, you know, both of the people and of their closet. You know, we can just imagine where your marketing could go with this, you know, in all sorts of directions. Super fun.
Perfect. Again, Tandra, you just wanted me to say that, hey, look, I service the greater Philadelphia area. And if you pay me enough, I'll cross into Jersey. Like you can have a little fun with that. You know, or you could turn on and say, if you double your price, I'll go to New Jersey. Like just, you can have a little bit of fun. It's just more a matter of, are you coming out? Like, where are you? Even if you're at a local mixer, people want to understand how far out is too far. Like, especially in Southern California, if you're in downtown LA, people like, where's Quincy at? Like, people aren't necessarily thrilled about going to the West Side. If you're on the West Side, people aren't necessarily going, they're not happy to go on the other side of the 405. And what, for those that are familiar with the Los Angeles area, like if you're driving more than, I don't know, more than like 5 or 10 miles, people are just not interested because the traffic's so terrible. I digress. Anyway, we've got an agenda here of like classroom material that we have to start at some point.
Michael had his
And-
hand up. Maybe we'll reserve that for if we have time at the end.
Okay, I think we will have time at the end. And Nadav, it's time to go down today. I'm right.
Oh, I don't know. This is our classic. This is a Josh and Nadav classic class that we love to teach together because we come down a little bit on different sides of this in some fun ways on customer service. So I guess I'm taking the first one, Josh.
I can agree to that.
All right. Sounds good. So we all have an idea in our minds of customer service, right? Like we've all been on the receiving end of customer service, good and bad. So as you dream about starting a business, offering a service, tap into that experience in your mind and think about, especially, what does it mean to have amazing customer service? When have you felt amazing customer service? That's my challenge. Before we even start talking about this, imagine some of the best service you've had, right? Have that front of mind if you can recreate some of that magic for your customers. So how well are you serving your customers? And again, this is from the point of view of both you and your customers. How well are you serving them, and how do you make sure that they are happy? Are they leaving, telling you to your face that they're happy, and then you get negative reviews on social media, or you get the feeling like they're not fully happy and like, what am I missing? Ensure that they are happy. Depending on the business, there's some layers there to make sure that you can figure that out. In my opinion, anything other than 100% satisfaction, you are missing the point. You are failing. Every customer that I interacted with in my coffee place, if I sold someone a drink, right, and they took a sip of the drink and they winced or made a face, even a very slight face that they were unhappy, my staff was trained by me to be like, wait a minute, what happened? You're not into it. We're replacing that right now. I'll make you something totally different, right? Any hint of unhappiness, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, we were on, because I can't afford as a small business to have one unhappy customer that's going to tell other people that they were able to leave my place unhappy. The opportunity instead is for me that they leave and they say, wow, that first drink I got, that stunk. But then they fixed it, right? Such nice people. Took care of me free, right? It doesn't cost you anything to have that happen in your place of business, but that should be your goal. So you have to be responsive, right? You have to hear that verbal and nonverbal feedback, and then immediately take that as an opportunity to fix it and show how awesome you can be fixing problems. So that means having a representative, an employee, you readily available for customers, answering the phone, getting back to people by text or whatever it is as quickly as you can, and handling those complaints. Now, I feel like we talked about this a little bit the other day. There's a bit of a magic formula to this where you say, like, I'm sorry, I'm responsible, it's my business, it's 100% my fault, my bad. Let's talk about how we can fix it. How do we fix it? Ta, 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 ta. And then hopefully you can smooth it out with them and be like, so sorry it happened, thanks for giving us a chance to fix it, right? And your goal is to handle it so well that they'll remember how well you fixed it. You have to under-promise and over-deliver. This is the do what you say part, and hopefully say that you're going to do less than you actually do, but you got to follow through. If you don't follow through, that is memorable. And you guys can probably all remember times where things that were promised to you by businesses were not followed through on. Don't be that guy, right? Stay involved. And this is kind of open-ended, but be involved with your customers as much as you can, whether that's creating community, be involved in the service culture in your place. If you have employees, you can't outsource this, right? Like, you can't be like, all right, employees, make my customers happy. I'm going to sit in the back room and count my money, right? No, that does not work like that. You know, this is the soul of your business success, is how happy your customers are with you. And then, yeah, be aware of what's happening on social media. You can set up Google alerts. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but if you start a business, you can set up Google alerts about your name of your business, and then Google will email you if there's a news story about it. You want to be on the email list for Yelp and for your Google Maps listing, that Google business listing, and then check those emails, make sure that you're responding if there's a negative review. And it's not, am I responding today, right? It's, am I responding this hour? It's going to be fairly quick level of response that you need. And it can be a little bit hard to like process it and then, emotionally talk yourself down to then have a good response. I'm definitely guilty of that. Having a system is important here. You know, in terms of thinking through what happens when someone complains, what happens when you get contact. You know, you should have standards for how fast you get back to people as part of it too. I think there used to be a rule that phone call, you would get back to them within 20 minutes, text maybe 2 hours, email maybe 2 days. I feel like that's probably been tightened up now, you know? People expect pretty quick responses. So that's an issue. You want to replicate your customer experience. And this is really true in businesses like coffee, right? Where it's addictive. People want to come in every day and have roughly the same experience. You need to keep that experience the same. You know, even though it's someone different behind the counter, it's good to keep it like that. I think Elaine is asking you, are Google Alerts free? Google Alerts are free. It's just one of these, many of the services that Google provides, where you can set up to get emails and alerted when certain keywords appear on the web for the first time. So you need to ensure consistency, but also that you don't have to like rebuild the wheel every time. You got to get these systems in place so that the customers have this very consistent experience. Josh, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why 100% satisfaction is not attainable or preferable in your eyes.
Well, for one, you're the one who said it. That's the number one reason why you're wrong. If I said it, I'd be right. But I digress. So there's an element of not everyone's my customer. And I'll give you a real life example that happened just before I got onto today's call. So my son got detention today at school today by his nemesis, Mrs. Harris. Mrs. Harris is still in the explicative of choice for someone that you don't like in life. And my comment to him was, I really don't give a damn. I got detention, Dad. I'm just letting you know, Sammy, you're wonderful. I really don't care. And I told him straight up, you're not going to please everyone in life, and you shouldn't try. Then I go on to tell him, I said, if this was Mr. Herbold, with whom he has had other issues with, I would be down your throat and I'd be on your back pretty quickly, because he actually does respect you and he's very considerate and he's trying to work with you on your disciplinary issues. But Mrs. Harris is a pain in the ass and I have no love for her. And if you mistreat her, I'm actually okay with it. Where I come with that is that there's a level, especially given, if this is our business, we get to pick and choose our customers. And if I've got a 95% satisfaction rate, I'm okay with that. Because the remaining 5%, if you're going to turn around and troll me, now mind you, when the dog has to remake a cup of coffee, the cost, the incremental cost for a cup of coffee is pennies. If I have to redo a shirt order, that could be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Further, if you mistreat my employees, given the nature of who I hire, that is a cardinal sin. I will not have my team members turn their other cheek because my customer misspoke, mistreated, or otherwise was unkind to my employees. I would sooner somebody go ahead and give me a negative review because you spoke unkindly to a team member of mine. I will not have that. So from a cultural perspective, I realize that my most precious assets go home every day, and I hope to goodness that they come back tomorrow so that we can continue producing the most amazing shirts ever. I care about customer service and I strive for excellence there. But whereas Nadav, if he messes up and a barista turns around and has a bad day and pours a bunch of hot coffee and they don't kind of make that up and rectify that quickly, it's going to be viral on some TikTok video pretty darn quickly. Further, I do youth sports referee. On more than one occasion, some parents have videotaped me as they've tried to bait me into a no-win scenario. I don't sit there and apologize. I'm not going to say, oh, here's whatever it is. Let me make this right by you. No. Like this is not okay. So there's a level of boundaries, self-respect, self-discipline, and willingness for me to kowtow to somebody else. I will be responsive. I will be punctual. I will address issues as they surface. But just because you turn around and say, I don't like it, that doesn't mean you're getting free stuff. And I will gladly invite you to shop elsewhere if you make fun of me or my team members. And if you're not respectful, it's like, you're not worth it. sorry, this isn't, you have it your way. This isn't Burger King. This isn't Starbucks. This isn't Morning Bell Coffee even. If you are going to be demeaning to me or my team, you can go after yourself and the horse you rode in on, and we're not serving you. I don't care what the size of your order is. I don't care what the referrals you may have, because if that's the way you are, I don't want to even talk to your referral partners because they're probably going to act like you. So keep in mind that you have birds of a feather kind of swim together. Birds of a feather fly together, stick together, whatever the adage is. I learned this with my CPA practice. If you had one cheap ass customer, their referrals were equally cheap. So versus like, you don't necessarily want 100 people that just want to pay the bare bones price and complain about every nickel and dime charge. Not helpful. That's not the experience I wanted in my CPA practice or my apparel business. I'm just not dealing. No. So is it wrong? Is Nadal outwardly wrong? No. In the nature of his business, he has to be kind to everyone. He's a Main Street business. To me, both because of my New Jersey kind of way of being, as well as my general, my devotion to my team members. No, we're not doing it. It's not, you don't get, you get your shirts, that's fine. I will gladly give you your money back before I let you treat me like crap. Not doing it. So,
Yeah, I don't know about the treating like crap part, that's, I feel like that it was very rare for me, even, different places that I did business. I didn't get that as much. And I always felt like, the customer must be right? Like this vibe of customer is always right. Customers know that too, right? And they expect that some of the time and will bring that to you even when it's not warranted. And maybe the best thing you could do is let them be right this much, and that was part of my verbal dance with them. Where I would talk to them and be like, yeah, you're right, we messed this up, and focus on what we could agree on and kind of not try to get into the rest of the stuff sometimes. But yeah, there's some challenges there.
yeah, it's more a matter of, this is where, and we're going to end up someplace kind of in the common grounds in a few slides here. But just to give you a quick little preview, more than anything, the consistency of the service experience is more important. So if you show up and if you offer a consistent service experience, then you're going to be fine. It's when you're inconsistent, that's when you're going to run afoul with the customer base. So people know very well what they get when they talk to you. I'm a lot more, you get what you get, what you see what you get what you see, and that's kind of that. I'm usually not offensive when I see a design that's terrible. It would typically be, hey, wow, that's pretty cool. What if we kind of tweaked it like this? Or if you're trying to do a particular design or a particular shirt, it's like, hey, if you're doing something veterans related, you really need to be made in the USA, and here's why. And I'll be pretty adamant about it, but I'll be kind. I won't be a total ass about it, but I'll be pretty opinionated as far as where I think you need to be. Anyway, why don't we, I think that the most common part where we agree is that the system needs to ensure consistency so that it frees us up from having dealing with the same issues over and over again, that we have a policy. This is how we deal with it, period. Why don't we go on to the next slide? Hiring. Some businesses don't need employees. Okay, fine. But we all should have a set of values to which we subscribe. And once we start describing the values, then we start describing what is our corporate DNA and how do we handle problems. So I don't necessarily need to write a policy about every single thing, but I can start, if we start talking about our values will speak to how we handle our day-to-day business operations. When we have to hire, when you have the revenue, like don't hire people you can't afford. Stupid. When you are tired of working 80 hours in a week, then you can start looking at hiring people. Identify good employees, conduct a background check. Here's a case where, mind you, I'm a second chances employer. So like, I'm looking at the background check, but what I'm looking for is transparency. Tell me what's up. Tell me where things went sideways. Tell me how, like, I shouldn't be worried about you. And then we can move forward. If you're going to turn around and not take responsibility, I'm gonna be a little bit miffed. Get that reference check, pull multiple references, ask what people are about. Yeah, some of this is dog and pony stuff because sometimes a corporate employer has very specific rules about what they can and can't say. But ask around, ask some questions. Hey, what did other people think of them? All that sort of stuff. Have your team members meet with multiple people in your organization. Like ideally, we tend to think our habit is that we want to hire people that are a lot like ourselves. But the reality is that we need people that are different from us. Meaning that we typically should hire people with complementary skills, not people that are just like me. If everyone's an analytical mind and no one's creative, well, how do we get creativity to the table? If we have white Jewish guys running around there, how do we represent diversity? If we have, you're trying to create a balanced environment and then have some level of onboarding, a standard orientation program that allows you to cover your values, your vision, and more than anything, your job description expectations so that you can understand what you're asking of them and they understand what you're asking of them. It's critical, absolutely critical. And then last but not least, hire slowly, fire quickly, meaning that, hey, look, until you're working 80 hours a week and you can't keep your eyes open anymore, then you don't hire the next person. But if they're starting to really rub you the wrong way, get rid of them, move on. Give them the appropriate warnings and all that, and do your documentation. But that can be really, really disastrous when people are involved in your business that shouldn't be.
Great points, Josh.
Hey, I didn't mean, I'm just reading the slides.
Oh, you added something. You added. Things that came up in my mind as you were going through. The when to hire part is so important, especially as someone that had a one-person business for a long time. Only hire when it's so painful for you that you have to hire. There's no other choice. Why? Because this jump from being just you to having employees is very big administratively. You will have lots more paperwork, different insurance, all sorts of chaos as soon as you hire one person. You might have to register with different state entities. Being alone is super easy. As soon as you have more people, it's a lot more complicated. So just imagine that's a hard hurdle. Like the first one is actually the biggest step. In my last business, so we ended up selling the business to our employees. It became a workers' cooperative. So my employees now own that business in Iowa. It's amazing. So we did all sorts of cultural stuff around hiring. And one of the big things that we did was having all group interviews. So for years before we became a cooperative, every interview of a new person was a group interview. All employees were invited and every person had veto power. So if one person got a bad vibe, we didn't hire that person. And it was amazing. I was always the most optimistic about everybody. Everybody that came in the door, I was like, this is the best person ever. We got to hire them. I love them. It's going to be amazing. And then the rest of the team would be, someone would pitch up and be like, I was really concerned about this, or this part didn't seem to be the right vibe. But so it really worked well as a check on my insane optimism, apparently. So that really helped me. And that's to Josh's point, that hire people that see the world differently than you do. The references can be amazing. Just calling references, you get a lot of information about people. And, you want to ask open-ended questions. So, even though sometimes people have legal constraints on what they can say in a corporate setting, if they worked at a small business, us small business owners, we don't necessarily have those constraints and might not know what we can't say. So your goal is to, beyond just checking, did they work there? Do the times, the dates roughly line up? I would always ask, what was the vibe? Like, what were they into? Did you hang out with them outside of work? What did they talk about? Were they fun? Because sometimes when you hire someone, you're going to spend more time with this person than you're going to spend with your family, with your spouse. It's someone that you're going to see all the time. And my goal was always to hire people that I wanted to hang out with. And the joke was, I'm hiring friends to hang out with me, right? If you're going to come work for me, it's like I'm paying you to be my friend and hang out with me all day. There's a layer of that in there. And it was just a party and hilarious in that way. But the one big reference question I would always ask is, What else do I need to know? What else do you wish you would have known before you hired this person? And just these open-ended questions. What else can you tell me? What else do you wish that you could tell me about this person? Because the open-ended sometimes will bring stuff from, totally left field that, could be significant and interesting. Yes, hire slowly, fire quickly. Very good advice. And usually people know. I've had to fire very few people. Most of the time, people quit because they know they're not holding it up and they're figuring out on their own what they have to do. If you have clear system, clear expectations, you're discussing with your employees how they're not meeting those expectations, it's pretty obvious to them and they're already looking for another job. Half the time it feels like. So I think we're ready for the next slide, please, Ali. All right, human resources and managing the people. So when we talk about HR, this is really all the processes and administrative elements that I was talking about, that when you hire one person, it becomes infinitely more complicated. All of a sudden, your organization is responsible to administer human resources. And the laws might be different where you are, that this kind of can go by the state. There's can be state regulations in terms of who you register with. So your goal is to manage this somehow. And most of the time for small businesses, it's outsourcing the actual running of the payroll to another business. So Paychex is very big, ADP. We used a firm called OnPay at my coffee place that was great. And basically it's a website where you can log in, put in however many hours your employees worked, and then what pay rate, and then everything gets handled by them, all the withholding, doing the state types of registrations or maintaining those registrations, doing the reporting, all the reports that are due, all those layers of administration are handled by these businesses, and that's what you pay them to do. So if you're small, you need kind of different levels as you grow. So sometimes if you decide to give benefits like health benefits, benefits that cost you money, those also require more administration. So once you get up to 30 or 50 employees, you might need someone whose job it is to manage all this stuff. There are businesses that you can outsource it to, but at that point you kind of have to measure the price. Is it worth it for me to hire someone to do this, or should I outsource the whole thing and understand what it costs you? So the HR can be complicated. Your goal is in all things with business is to keep it simple, stupid. That KISS analogy, which I love, with all things in business, the simpler you can keep it, the better and easier it'll be for you to manage. So you have to grow with your organization as a leader. If you are just managing yourself, you have to make sure you lead yourself, put in the systems in place that you will follow, right? And that could be hard enough for some folks, as we know, right? Some people, getting them to be consistent and do what they need to do day in, day out, tough. Now imagine trying to make other people do that. Having the carrot and the stick management to make that happen with other people, that's a whole different skill set. So, I can think of folks that I know who are business owners and people who have started businesses. They needed different skills at the time that they opened their business as compared to when their business grew and they had a lot of employees. It's really like you needed to go at a different speed and you need different skills. So just understanding that could be coming and that you might need to do different things. The right employee for the right job, clearly that's important, and that's part of finding that right employee. It can be hard to suss that out and figure out who that person might be. The cultural stuff is so important, and the vibe of your place. You will have happier employees who will stay longer if they love coming to work. If they're happy to come in and it's a good vibe, and you as a business owner and the manager treat them well, treat them with love, treat them with respect, God forbid, right? For me, it was always love. Had to lead with love, make sure my employees knew I needed them to be super happy because I'm trusting them with my most important resource. And no, it's not the keys to the shop, it's my customers, right? I'm trusting them to take care of my customers. If they wreck that, they just wreck that customer relationship. That's the most valuable thing I have in the business. So that was always this cultural value of like, I trust you and we're going to have fun. We're going to hang out, and sometimes it's going to feel like work, right? Work doesn't matter if you love your job. It's the most passionate thing that you're passionate about. There are times where you're like, this is like work, and that's okay. Your goal is to make the rest of it super fun and make your workplace the funnest workplace you've ever worked at, right? And then give that as a gift to your employees. So figuring out what your values are culturally and how you can make it special, it sounds so open-ended, but it's fairly easy and often free to do. But the potential there is that you create an amazing culture where your employees love you. Josh, tell me all the ways that I'm wrong here.
That would be none of it. Now, I have a friend of mine who we've got different managing philosophies that, people that work for you are there to drive business for you. Nothing's personal, it's business. They're there to make you money, and they'll stab you in the back at the first opportunity. Now, there is a place in this world for that management process thinking. I am personally not a fan. If I am that concerned about my employees, then they don't belong on my payroll to begin with. Much like so many of our relationships in life, we need to have a level of trust for all the reasons that I've said. I will speak to the notion of, yes, on some level, you have to be willing to fire even your friends. You have to be willing to fire the people that you love. Whether or not that's more figurative love because that they're just somebody that you're hiring, you need to be able to dismiss people that have done wrong by the policy manual. Like, there's a limit to what your kindness can be, and this is ultimately a for-profit entity that you have to kind of address. Because on some level, it's your baby, and if it's either like, if you've got money to spare, okay, I guess. But sometimes you do have to say goodbye. But I don't know that I agree with I wouldn't hire somebody that I'm so concerned about their way of being that they'll steal from me at the first opportunity. I think there's a large thing to be said about people will act in a way fitting of how you're treating them. So if you set expectations that are reasonable, you treat them with respect and concern, and you have high aspirations for them, they will rise to the occasion and meet you there for the most part. You might be wrong from time to time, and that you have to fire the person. You make a mistake. It happens. But I think we are in agreement, lockstep, Nadav, that when you bring somebody aboard, that the objective is that they perform admirably, and that you are happy with their presence in the company. If not, you have to reevaluate your life choices. Why did I hire that person? Like, the person that I'm talking about is a dear friend of mine, and he's wildly successful. He had a very successful career in the military, as well as on the corporate side. So he's done well. But I kind of wonder, like, does the guy need a group hug? Because, like, he's always looking for people, and he's got high turnover. Let me think about that. And maybe he's been burned before, but also maybe he needs some help in terms of how do you manage a team a little bit better so that you're managing them for engagement and higher levels of satisfaction rather than just somebody in a job. So and I think the line here is you have to have the right employee for the right job. So I think ultimately we all have jobs that we would succeed in, and the one that we are hired for may not be it. And wisdom is realizing that. I love you as a person. I think you're a great person. You're in the wrong job, and the job that you need is not one I can hire you for. You're a great person. I love who you are. I love your energy that you bring to the table. There is a job for you, just not with me. And breaking those two things apart, I think, is an important thing. And recognizing that if you're going to judge a fish's ability by its ability to fly, the fish will never get a job and will be sad. So recognize what the talents are, recognize what the abilities are, and act accordingly. And then you set your right cultural values for the business that drives all of this sort of stuff. Like, if you are underhanded in your business dealings, don't be surprised if your team members are underhanded. Like, let's be smart about this.
Yeah. And the other part, if they see you not treating customers well, right, then they will know that they can also not treat customers well. You become the model in that way of setting the cultural tone on all sorts of levels. And yeah, it's Josh, you are right.
Something like that. All right, Ty, see you next time. Next slide, please. Managing people overall. Employee turnover will happen. And changing of the guard isn't necessarily a bad thing. you do want to understand why people are leaving you or why you're asking them to leave. Because ultimately, for most people that leave your front door, you want to really understand, was it that I failed? If they failed, okay, well, how did I fail? You are the boss, the buck stops with you. So if you hired them and you are now firing them, what happened? Now, it could very well be that you hired them and then life happened, the person went through divorce and they just can't handle the job anymore. It could very well be that they're moving away, things like that. But you wanted, where you want to kind of mind your head is that, are they leaving you because of how you're showing up? And have a candid conversation with yourself and other team members of, how is it working for me? What can I do better? Like, be humble enough to say, you know what, I fuck up too.
Allow
then
your
separate-
employees to, sorry to jump in, but allow your employees to be like, you know, what did I do wrong? And give them the grace to be like, Josh, when you came in and yelled at everybody that day, that was a real downer, you know? It's like, nobody was happy after that day, right?
100%. So manage others how you'd like to be managed. And this does not give license that if you like to be yelled at because you're some sick bastard, this does not give you license to yell at everybody else. The idea here is that most people like to be treated kindly and with respect. Please act accordingly. Be clear on your expectations from the beginning. You are in at 7, office hours are from 7 o'clock to 3:30 with an hour for lunch. Have a written job description. Written. That doesn't mean other responsibilities as required. No. Have clear expectations of what you want. If you want somebody to be able to hit a certain production level, it's important. It's important to verbalize that. It's really important to share what the expectations are. And when it's written, now you can refer back to that document. Hey, do you remember that piece of paper? Working hours are between 7 and 3. And by the way, there's no smoking here. And when it's 7 to 3 and no smoking, that means that you are showing up without smoking. Don't do as I say, do as I say, not as I do. None of that. Get agreement on performance standards. All too often, on the corporate side of things, we might have seen it before, that you go for your annual review, and then 3 months ago, you turned in an assignment late, or you turned in a report late, and it makes it to your annual review. Don't be that boss. Catch people doing things right. Hey, wow, we did a really good job here today. I'm really appreciative of everything that you did. Thank you so much. You're a rock star. I really appreciate what you were able to bring to the table. You know, and if you actually happen to have something unacceptable, hey, you know, Nadav, I really love what you bring to the table every day. You know, I noticed today that you were half an hour late. Is everything okay? You slept in? Get it? No problem. What can I do to support you? Cool. Please, you know, the hours again are from 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Please make sure you're here on time. If there's anything I can do, let me know. But man, I really love what you're doing for the team. Good job. Thank you so much. And so that's kind of like the sandwich method, where you're praising, you're correcting the behavior. Hey, this is what my expectations are. And you go back to praising the person, saying, wow, you're really a valued member of the team here. We can't get things done without you. And upward and forward we go. So let's move on to the next slide here.
Wait. No, let's go back, please, Ali. Getting my, I don't get my 2 cents. All right.
That's because I'm a cheap bastard. You don't get your 2 cents.
Oh, man. Oh, there's so many tidbits here. Of course, great, everything you said. The sandwich method, by the way, is amazing. If you guys don't know about it, it's so good at work, right? When you need to communicate something that's tough, that you give that method, and you know, it does something to our brains. When we hear that compliment first, we hear all this positivity, and then you gently slip something in that's kind of negative and then finish it with positivity. It's just like our brains are not wired to keep up with that. It does this beautiful thing to people in their brains. So highly recommended. It's also amazing in your personal life. If you're talking to your family, significant other, people, you know that. It's a wonderful tool when you have to talk about hard topics and bring stuff up. Highly recommend it. All right, so the turnover part, think back to when Josh said about his buddy, that like, yeah, this guy's amazing, but you know, he doesn't understand what's going on in his place, that he has all this turnover. That's a thing to understand, right? That if you have turnover, that's telling you something about your business, and that your goal is to minimize that. And if your turnover is very low, take that as you're doing something right. Maybe you can figure it out. If it's fast, what are you doing wrong that people don't want to hang out with you? Are you not making it that people want to stay? And I'll tell you from my experience, pay is important, but it's not the only factor. Some of the other big things here, having the written job description is important. The performance standards is super important. Make people accountable to a team. So, it's one thing to be accountable to you as the boss, but when people let the team down, right, the other employees, it's not all on you to communicate that, right? They're going to get that in the group chat, in the text. They're going to get that informally when they're hanging out. So encourage that kind of team behavior where they're all accountable for each other, set up those structures. And that was the way that we did it in my coffee place. People relied on other people to show up there on time. And if you were late, it wasn't my problem. It was the other employee's problem. They had to stay later to cover for whoever was late. It was amazing, so that it reinforced that pressure. I didn't have to be the one to do it. So think about that stuff. Catch employees doing something right. This is really, we get into the psychology here. Thinking about how do we reward good behavior. For most people, rewarding good behavior, giving them a carrot, works way better than spraying them with water in the face when they do something bad. It's just how we're conditioned. So it's the carrot and stick analogy. So are you as a manager, are you giving carrots? Are you giving chunks of verbal praise? Are you giving people bonuses? Are you catching them doing the right thing and talking to them about that? Or are you telling them you did a bad job that time, don't do that again, right? It could be the same vibe, but very different effect. It could be the same phenomenon. So it's really training yourself to see the world that way. And then also seeing how you are being carroted and sticked by the IRS, right? By whoever in your life. Once you see the world through carrot and stick, kind of hard to unsee it. Talking about prison, stick, right? Like that's the ultimate stick in some ways. So this is society's giving you the stick for what you did, as opposed to reinforcing your positive behavior before you got to that point. So it's big. All right, so on that point, we are ready for the homework slide. And we've still got a good amount of time on the clock. Josh, what happened?
It's this week. I mean, sometimes we take a little bit more from the peanut gallery on some of the customer service elements here, and we can certainly circle back to that sort of stuff now as far as what we think, what defines good customer service. And at some point, I'm not quite sure. I usually talk about on the consistency piece. I usually talk about like when it comes to customer service, McDonald's actually isn't necessarily bad customer service. It might be bad food. It might be not so tasty food, depending upon your culinary preferences. But the cool thing that McDonald's does is that you're going to get a uniform experience no matter where you go. You're going to go to Starbucks, you're going to get a pretty similar experience no matter where you go. You go to Walmart, you're going to get a consistent experience no matter where you go. The question for you in your business is to decide for yourself what customer service model works for you. When Amazon first got started, there was no phone number for Amazon anywhere. You could not find a telephone number for anyone at Amazon. If you wanted to address a customer service issue, you had to go through their portal. There was no brick and mortar, there were no stores, there was no Amazon employees. There was a chat box. No, not even chat box. It was email only. And that was the only way to actually get service resolved. And they made a really strong statement about it. They were quick to respond, but their version of services very clearly defined. We don't have stores, we don't have bricks and mortar, we don't have people, we don't have live agents domestically or abroad. We have a chat bot. No, we will respond to your emails within 3 hours. And that's how they worked it. It's not to say that that's the way to go, but it was obviously intentional about how they did it. So more than anything, you want to be intentional about how you handle service and then be consistent in how you apply it. Don't just help the white people. Don't just help the women. Don't just help the children. Be consistent day to day, person to person, that whoever's showing up at your doorstep, that you're treating them decently.
Great points there, Josh. Yeah, and what I would try to visualize is everybody is my aunt, everybody is my cousin. And this is for employees, but for customers too. And when you put somebody in that frame, just like people who deserve love and care, and it makes it really easy to serve them and really easy to take care of them. On the other point, customer service, in my coffee place, famously, we had no phone. You could not call. And the reason why I did not want to have a phone is I don't like the vibe of a phone. Here I am in a fancy food establishment. I'm working so hard to create this nice vibe. I cannot have a phone ringing, and I cannot have my baristas take their eye off the ball of working with who is in front of them to give that maximum love and attention. But we had a text number, and the text would only go to me, the manager, and now it goes to the managers who are running the shop. So that way there was communication, but it was only by text. It was really only for wholesale customers. It wasn't for the everyday coffee people coming in. But I guess my point is figure out what works for your business and know that it's 2022. If you don't need a phone, sometimes it's nicer. Who's going to be calling, right? It's tough. The people calling are my age and older, right? The people that you wish weren't calling some of the time, that they need to be hand-picked, like taken by the hand through the process. It was funny. My mother recently, she was visiting and she was like, I got to book a plane ticket. And right away she's calling. I'm like, who are you calling? We do this online now, right? And she's like, I'm calling the airline. I'm booking a plane ticket, right? So think carefully about the service levels that you offer. I think it's a really good point.
That's really funny.
All right, so I know Mike S. wanted to come on and give us his elevator pitch, and we can also open it up. And for any of you guys that have other questions, other thoughts, after Mike is done, we can talk about some other stuff. So prepare yourselves. And in the meantime, we can hear from Michael.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Michael Sherman, and oh, hold on, sorry. I'm glitching.
Sorry,
Am I glitching?
A little bit, but this is the life.
Oh yeah, this is life, isn't it? Hey, I'm Michael Sherman. I'm the president and life coach at Epic Pursuits, based out here in Bonnie Lake, Washington. And we specialize in coaching and guidance solutions for leadership and sales coaching. And you can find us on social media at epicpursuits.com.
There's a lot to like in what you just said. The only thing I'd ask about is if you can narrow down the scope as far as who that customer happens to be. Like when you tell me that you're good at leadership coaching and sales coaching, okay, well, give me either an industry or a size kind of where you're hitting, because my instinctive reaction is, well, are you talking to Fortune 500 companies? Are you talking to me? And the reality might be you're talking to anyone who's willing to give you money. That's probably the truth. But as you're doing an elevator pitch, it's helpful for me to understand who am I trying to get you in front of. Because one of the things about when I hear an elevator pitch is I go through my virtual Rolodex, my phone in my head, as far as who would be a good introduction for this guy if I like what he has to say. So if we kind of pass the smell test of, hey, I do sales and leadership coaching. Okay, well, do I know anybody that's a sales or a leader? Well, actually, I know a lot of people that are sales leaders. I'm not giving you everyone. But if you tell me, hey, I'm really looking for somebody who's in sales and leadership in the coffee space, I might just have you call Nadav, even though he's out of that space. I might just make the introduction because he might know some people in the space that might be interested for you to talk to.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you are excluding out the rest of the world. It just means you're helping me as I'm listening to you in your 20 seconds. You're helping me identify who in my contacts would be good for you to speak with. And if you are not specific enough, I'm sitting there kind of thinking in my head, I can't think of anyone. The line that I'll usually reference here is that my former brother-in-law, is a chiropractor. And when he had his practice, his line was, I'm looking for anyone with a spine, which if you think about it on the surface, it's kind of cheeky and fun. But from a referral point of view, it's not really helpful. If he said, I'm looking for somebody who's in a car accident in the last month, that's more helpful. If he's looking for somebody who's walks with the steep gait, a weird walk, that's something, oh yeah, so and so. Then I go into my head as I start to think, who meets that criteria? And again, every time you offer it, you can give me a different version of it. Hey, I'm looking for sales leaders in the mortgage space. I'm looking for salespeople in the retail apparel space. I'm looking for CEOs in technology. Every time you give the pitch, you can mention somebody different. Even though your approach might be the same, even though you're open to people large and small. I mean, I get consulting, you'll take anyone's dollar. But when you're talking in the elevator pitch setting, you're trying to get me to think and get into my Rolodex. In order to do that, you've got to give me a little bit more to kind of get.
Great points there. And yeah, I think it's so true that you can standardize. And right away, I thought, well, what if your target market is only Subway restaurant franchisees, right? It's like you could have, it's like so specific, but also clearly tells people, I'm not looking for any customers. You will get those elevator pitches. When you talk to some people, you will hear pitches that you're like, wow, you clearly aren't looking for any new customers, right? You're shutting me down. So you don't want to go in that direction. But I think
although Nadav, it's a good point, but on the contrarian side to that, it's sometimes you can go fishing into a room and play like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon of 6 degrees of separation. Say, hey, look, normally I'm asking for whatever it is, but does anyone in this room have a contact with Kim Kardashian? Hey, does someone in this room have a contact over at the New York Giants organization? And like, when you phrase it like that, and you're like, hey, I'm trying to see if I can get into a particular, then it's not that you're looking just for Subway franchises, because you are right that if you could very easily get to a place of you're like, hey, wait a minute, you really don't want to do business with anyone, do you? Get that, you're absolutely right. But if you can modify that pitch just a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that is you're planting seeds, right? And this is an important point about all elevator pitches. When we meet Michael, right, and we hear this pitch and we hear what he's doing, and right away you're like, oh, cool. And I don't know anybody off the top of my head that needs that. Nice to meet you, Michael. That was great. And then tomorrow, a week from now, you meet someone that's like, wow, I really need help with my business. I really need all this help. And then it's like that seed, it's like, oh, I just met that guy. He does this, right? So you're planting those seeds half the time, and you never know when they're going to come back. And that's why those differentiation points that make you findable stand out, right? Where you're like, that's the dude with the psychedelic truck, those crazy details where you cannot forget it, where if they have to come back and find you, they can because of those details. And that's the other place I would encourage you to go, Michael, is some differentiating something that you can give us about your leadership and sales training that is crazy, that after my sales training, we can sell eggs to chickens, or the average person that goes through it raises their sales 50% in 2 weeks. What I bring is crazy. Give us something that we can chew on about why you're different, special, and amazing. And you want to be confident. You don't want to be sometimes too out there with hubris, right? But you got to find where that line is to at least be able to talk yourself up enough. You're like, yeah, I got this. Like the people who hire me, they make a lot more money, whatever, however it comes across. That's a really big thing to get to, big place to get to.
Yeah, and just going back to the overall premise for the week, keep in mind service, be intentional, be consistent. Again, Nadav, he might be a little nicer than I am. Actually, he is nicer than I am. You are decisively nicer and kinder than I am as a person, and you are decisively more optimistic than I am. I get that. But he's also remarkably consistent. He's consistent in his business dealings. He's consistent in how he shows up for me as a friend. He's consistent all the way around. And that's what you want out of your service, because you want consistent expectations. How many times have we gone to a restaurant and it was fabulous one time, and the next time we go there, it's terrible? McDonald's, you're going to get heartburn. You'll get heartburn every single time. I mean, you might get a little present afterwards about food poisoning, but for the most part, you're going to get a consistent experience no matter where you go on McDonald's. But if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, like the first time you go, it's amazing, the second time it sucks, you don't go back. So keep that in mind as you think about your businesses. If I think about Lisa Carroll, if I get my first craft, and my first craft is dynamite, and it's well put together with brilliant colors, and the second time, the stickers don't peel, I'm not coming back to you. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
So just be mindful about that. Consistency with your service is really, 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 really important.
It's hard to build, easy to squander. Sorry to jump in, but on that point, imagine you go to the restaurant for years, right? You're regular to place for years, then you have one bad meal. It's the same effect. You're also like, I'm done, I'm all set, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to use another kid example, my ex-wife and my older son were busting on my chops that if I don't respond to their text within 10 minutes, they're wondering if either A, my phone died, or B, I died. And I care less about what my ex-wife thinks, but it was a real validation that I've got it worked so that anytime my kids, like on my belief window, anytime my children reach out to me by phone or by text, even if I can't take their call, I'm writing back to them by text message, hey, I'm in a meeting right now. What's going on? Are you okay? Do you need me to step out? That level of consistency creates trust within a relationship. And ultimately within our businesses, we want to be in a position of creating a level of trust. So with that said, questions, thoughts, quandaries, let's open it up. Any other thoughts, questions? Anyone want to do a pitch? Any questions about what we talked about? Anyone saying
Big questions about life. This is the part where it's like, does alien life exist? Why are we here? Bring the big questions.
if Allie gets married, do the wedding bells chime?
Anybody unmuting?
And if you don't feel comfortable into the group, by all means, put it into the chat window.
Yeah, this is the time that we can chat.
If anyone wants to hit it up offline, let me know. We've kind of passed kind of the meatiest of everything of the class. So next week it's going to be a little bit more. Next week we are on vision values. Sorry, I had to think about it for a second.
Right, Allie? Allie looks, yeah.
Sorry, I just had like a slew of emails come in, so I'm answering emails but listening to you.
Is that the one we're going to be on next week? Is next week wrapping up?
Yeah, next week is wrapping up.
Oh, we're on week 7 already? Oh my goodness gracious. That's what happens when I go to Vegas. I should lose track of time.
So next week we will do the recap. So tonight was the last of the new content. But if anybody, I know we still have 5 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, I don't want to cut it short if anybody has anything they want to share, but I also don't want to force you to share anything.
Yeah, but you can tell us a story, sing a song, this is our time to hang out. Jeff's laughing. You don't have a song, Jeff?
Jeff definitely has a song.
Can you hear me?
It might be.
Yeah,
I certainly can.
I don't have a song, but I did want to make a comment about like having like a fun workplace. Just because I've worked for so many like Stalin-like employers, just militant, and we my living room is covered in Wolf of Wall Street posters. It's covered in Nerf guns. I mean, we got puppies walking around, right? We got a Chewbacca mask on order. We want to put a dunk tank in the office, like a little mini petting zoo. Like, this is gonna be the best place to work. Even if we make no money at all, like, you will have so much fun working there that somehow you'll want to keep it going, just determined to make it fun. Just a fun place to work. Lemonade on tap, right? All the protein shakes you can drink. Of course, we're going to have a fitness area, right? Maybe like a house of balls, a bouncy house, something. It's going to be a good time.
This is what we talk about when you're being intentional about your business. Now, the rub that you have when you do kind of make it a little bit more personal, remember, don't hire anyone that you're not willing to fire. And I say that, may you never have to do that. Truly, may you never have to let somebody go. But just remember that, like, one of the challenges of creating an overly friendly environment is, sometimes the performance expectations are what they are. And if you're not cutting it, there's the door. That said, I feel you, like, hey, my team does a good job. I'm bringing in lunch. My team
Yeah.
does a good job. They're working hard. You know what? What do you need? So now we've got, they're like, hey, can we bring in the microwave? Sure, no problem. Earlier today, my team is now powered by Gatorade and Red Bull. So, like, for me, what does it cost me? If it costs me $6 a day in beverage, and once a week I'm bringing in lunch at $70, but they turn around and haul ass,
Right.
and they get that extra pallet out the door, and they get that extra client in the door, or they're willing to think about business off hours, and they have a level of engagement. Like, I love how you're thinking about the business, and to be creative about it, and to find, the thing about this, what you're saying but not saying, and you're so right overall, is that not, when we talk, we look at the salary, how much are you getting paid? And that might get somebody in the door on an employer side, but once they're in the door and you have lemonade and you're being coached on how to work out, and you get, like, for your business, for Lemonade Fitness, obviously these things are really relevant. So at some point in time, you get to pay people less because of the culture that you're offering. Disney, the Walt Disney Company, is notorious for underpaying people because it's effing Disney.
Right.
You want, you can go,
Yeah,
like, they will pay minimum wage because they know darn well that you will value getting into Disneyland for free. And
We
bringing
had-
your family in.
my place had such a good reputation. My coffee place, literally, it was 1 year. People would email me to get a job, and the average time for us to hire would be 1 year. Like, I would get a resume every day of people, just looks like such a fun place. I heard from this, it's like we had that reputation, and it's doable. And the other thing I would challenge you on, I'd love to hear about all the fun stuff that you're going to do. But that challenge and what is actually better in a lot of ways is the cultural stuff. So are you going to, like, if it's fitness, I know you're doing fitness stuff, you're going to bring in, like, grilled vegetables, have someone bring in a grill, have guest chefs, have, like, actual, don't think of it as like group building events that aren't fun, but like we had, for example, we had everybody come to my house, my wife and I, and with our kids, and we did a tie-dye party. We had shirts. This was before I ordered shirts from Josh, by the way. Very sad. I think they were my old shirts. We got all our shirts from Josh after I met him, but we had a tie-dye party where we had all these shirts, and it was a party in my backyard. We had beers, soda, we ordered a whole giant pile of pizzas, and we took pictures, put those on social media, and it was just a party, right? And so you can create that familial vibe. And it's more than just the stuff in the shop. It's also getting people together outside sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, the witching hour has come. Jeff, great stuff. Thank you for bringing that
Great
up.
stuff, Jeff. Yeah, oh man. this
Next
was great.
week, same time, same station. It'll be the wrap up. It's a good class. I think we're back. Is it together, the three of us? Is
I
it
think
Mark
it
and Sue, or
is.
just you and I?
I think it's just us.
Okay, cool. Rock and roll. Ali will get the recordings. Yeah, all that and more. And yeah, keep it real, folks. See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.